Yes. Perfect. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. I am very excited to have you here. I actually have missed these sessions. They are always so fun and so engaging. So it's been really nice to share these moments with you. Today is, as I said, the last session for our cohort training for SSI fellows. We are going to start in the morning with a session on open leadership in practice. And for that, we have brought 3 leaders in the community that they are going to showcase their careers, their paths, how did they become to be the leaders that they are now. And then we'll pause as usual for a lunch break, and we will come back for a community clinic when you are more than welcome to share your examples of troubles or things to discuss, issues. I don't like to say troubles in general, but yeah, so if you're interested in that, don't forget to add your potential discussion scenarios from line 77. It can be anonymous, like you don't have to give the name of community or specifics, but that will help us to organize the session later. So for now, I just wanted to remind you the call is going to be recorded or is being recorded and transcribed. We are working under the code of conduct of OLS, which is linked in the Framapad. These are very interactive sessions, as I've said. We really encourage discussion. Please raise your hand, unmute yourself, share your thoughts, your questions with the speakers, with the group in general. If you are not able to speak, that's okay. You can post your questions either in the chat or in the Framapad. There is a space for each of the speakers to write down your questions, or if you have any interesting links to share, things like that. And of course, if you experience or witness unacceptable behavior, please do talk to me or to Oscar about it, and we will action it. So with that, I think I'm just going to go over. Yeah, I wanted to remind you all exactly. I actually like the icebreaker of today. So we are introducing ourselves from line 23. I think most of you have already done them. But if you can also share and hold that thought about what is the trait that you are most proud in yourself, and come to that when you are hearing about others. There are very amazing traits in here, like resilience, determination, tenacious, loyalty. So if you think about it, these are amazing traits in leaders and in community managers. So keep that in mind whenever you are doubting yourself and wherever you come with a problem. And with that, I'm just going to hand over to Sarah. I'm going to, as usual, it's not because I'm lazy, but I really think I do very bad jobs at introducing people. So I'm going to hand over to Sarah Gibson, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you very much, Sarah. In preparation for this talk.
Do you want to start the recording?
I started already, didn't I? Yeah, I did.
Oh, sorry. Ignore me.
No worries.
Thank you, Oscar, for making sure we are definitely capturing what is going to be a great session. Hi, I'm Sarah, and no worries, Sarah. In preparation for this, I have done a bit of an introduction slide, but please. I just suddenly got hit with imposter syndrome about all of this leadership stuff. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully that is loading up. Yeah, so the talk I'm going to give today is 5 things I wish I knew about open leadership before I got started. So if you don't know who I am, hi, my name is Sarah, and this is my cat Max, who is my home office supervisor and determines when or not I stop working by sitting on my laptop. He may turn up. This is a bit of a weird time in the morning. Sometimes he can be fussy and want to come and see me, and other times he just goes, nah, and goes back to bed. So I've had, I've just done the maths in my head, an 8-year career so far in tech. That's terrifying. My background is I have a PhD in astrophysics. I was like wrapping that up in like 2018. Um, I was writing my own analysis scripts. I was learning Python. But I was still very green in terms of proper software engineering techniques and such. And this was also like the first career shift I made when I realized that I like really didn't want to stay in academia. I did not have the drive to keep writing papers. If I had to look at another paper again, I did not want to do that. And I was struggling to come up with my own like research questions to like make postdoc applications and stuff like that. And I was just like, you know what, this just isn't it. So I had a bit of a career change and I joined the Alan Turing Institute in the research engineering team as a research software engineer. And this was like where I really started digging into the software engineering side of my career. But I was still in touch with cool research projects. And it didn't feel like a huge switch from to, like traditional industry where it's like business is bottom line. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I spent 2.5 years at the Alan Turing Institute and did a load of stuff there. Most notably, I am a 2020 SSI fellow. In that time, I also, one of the first projects I joined there was the Turing Way. I'm sure many of you have heard about it over the course of this cohort session, even if you didn't hear about it before. But I was actually one of the first group of people that stood the Turing Way up back in 2019. We announced it at a collaborations workshop that year. And through that work, I also got involved with Project Jupyter, Jupyter Hub, and running my binder.org. So that was about cloud computing and reproducible computational environments and allowing people to share their work, like allowing people to be able to run their software, their analysis scripts and their Jupyter notebooks as easily as like sharing a URL. And so no installation needed. It just got booted up in the cloud and off you went. And that work, that cloud computing at scale, has really shaped the rest of my career. So after the Turing Institute, I joined a startup called 2i2c, which is the International Interactive Computing Collaboration. It was a non-profit that was basically providing managed Jupyter hubs in the cloud for research and education groups. So it was like really trying to productionize and formalize what was already happening in a lot of educational spaces where they were using Jupyter hubs to kind of easily disseminate course content or provide access to large data sets that could only live in the cloud or specific kind of compute for large models. But they were often, when they were run in-house, they were often not great services because of the amount of knowledge and skills required to do that. So we provided that as a service for just to help make those kind of services more reliable and let people focus on the research questions that they were interested in. And then last year I had another career switch again, where I'd kind of like had like a burnout period, and I've now moved into industry and I am working as a senior platform engineer in the energy sector in the UK. So the company is helping keeping 4 million people's electricity on across the UK, and I'm kind of providing the platforms and the DevOps experience for the various different squads within the company, so that they can like build what the customers need. So that's like my career journey today. And now I'm going to share 5 things about open leadership that I learned across that period. So the first thing is like curiosity should lead you, but like take your brain with you. The most common pathway for people to join open source projects and like climb the ladder into leadership is you join because you're using an open source project, there's an issue in there, and it bugs you, and so you go and fix it. And maybe the interactions you've had around there during that fix have been pleasant, and you find other things that you know that you can fix. So you start trying to fix people for other stuff, and you're like, oh my God, all the fixes. And you become like a bug squashing, feature rolling out machine. And that's when the people, the other maintainers of the project kind of start recognizing you and invite you to join like officially and become like a maintainer and get your commit bit or whatever. And then that's when things I think start to change. I think that's when you start going, hang on a minute, what are we building? And then like, but and who's going to build all of this? And how did I end up project managing a whole release cycle? Because the issue is when you have a team of people, when they only fix the things or build the things that are interesting to them, you kind of like fall, the product itself becomes like unusable. Its purpose isn't clear. And yeah, its usefulness and its usability like degrades. So I think there's this shift as you get more involved in projects that is really about the strategic view of what the project is there to do and who it's there to serve and how you're going to facilitate this group of people who are mostly going to be volunteers, let's face it, into delivering on those things. And that takes me on to my second thing I learned, which is that it's way more about people than it is tech. You really need to develop some like the social skills. Because nowadays everybody has a cool idea, like especially Claude. So it's not about like it's not about the novelty of your idea anymore. It's about how are you going to like gain traction, gain users, get it out there in a way that is reusable, in a way that other people can actually contribute to it. All that is a social problem, not a technical problem. And you need to develop the social skills to like kind of manage and lead those people in what can be quite politicized situations as well. Politicized in the sense like in open leadership, there's quite this anarchic anti-capitalism movement, and there's varying levels into how strongly people hold those values, and you can end up trying to manage people with strong opinions, and that might be causing damage in your community as well. And mostly it's about people because you're not going to be able to go this alone, in the sense that if you want to have a life as well, like open source is still a very privileged position to be in where the people who are able to and have the ability to contribute are in the global Northwest, have good jobs, don't have caring responsibilities in the evenings and weekends. So if you still want that downtime, you're going to need more than yourself so that you can look after yourself as well. Yes, that is my cat in the salad drawer in the fridge. Because flattery will actually get you everywhere and even where you don't want to go. I mean this rather than you flattering other people to get where you want to go, people flattering you to get you to do what they want you to do. Because it feels good to be asked to join projects and lead initiatives and whatever it is. People like that feeling. And when you're working with like volunteer labor that is usually the currency, is like the feel-good vibes. But I think one thing I learned over my career was to be aware of like what's actually being asked of you, and what the boundaries are around that role. And I learned to stop taking opportunities just because someone I respected asked me and because they think I'd be good at it. Even when they were right and I would be good at it. But like, again, you only have one life on this planet. And it's as much about you enjoying that as it is any amount of good you can put back into the world. So really like balance that out and think about what are you being asked to do? Do you have the skills, and is there going to be a return for you as well? I think there's a lot of altruism in open leadership where we do things for the greater good, but like you've still got to look after yourself. The fourth thing I learned is that you can future-proof your career with a tech stack for a given definition of future-proof. So I've gone from astrophysics to energy, which isn't like, I mean, they're related, but yeah, there's not a strong link between them. And that was because I spent a lot of time in my early career learning open source tools that were like deep enough in the tech stack that I became broadly relevant, like across domains. When I was looking for jobs last summer, yes, of course, I was applying to RSE jobs and research institutes and the such, but I was also applying to banks, energy companies, all sorts, because at the end of the day, I picked a stack to become an expert in that is just very widely and commonly used. So the advice I would be giving is to like pick the thing that everybody wants to use, but specifically not the trendy thing. Pick the hard thing. There's going to be a lot of temptation in now and in the upcoming years to become like AI engineers. But that bubble is going to burst, and it will be interesting to see how AI and such is going to be used after that bubble burst happens. In the same way the web bubble burst, but we haven't got rid of web developers. There'll still be a role for AI, but I think it'll be drastically different to what we're currently seeing. So pick the hard thing. Pick the thing that people wish they could use, but it seems too complicated. That's what I did with Kubernetes and cloud computing. And I will guarantee that if you open up the apps on your phone, about 90% of them will be Kubernetes applications running in the cloud somewhere in the back end. So if you make the right choices, you can like make sure you've got a longish career as well through the use of open source tools. And the last thing I learned is that your network is absolutely the best thing you are going to get out of this. So we've got like in this call today, we've got a cross of networks because we're running OLS cohorts, but this is for the SSI fellows, and I've done both of those as well. Great communities. I've got a network of people that I know through open source. I know a lady, I call her my tech mom because my mom doesn't know a lot about what I do for work, but Carol does a lot of things. And like, I love Carol, she's great. I go to her for advice about my career and everything. But she also sits on the board of the Python Software Foundation. And every now and again I go, yeah, I know a load of really cool people. So like take advantage of that. You'll meet so many cool people. You'll never know when those connections will come in handy. And then use your network as well. I think one of the best things you can do for other people in like giving back is like making connections in your network once you've built it, because it's really low effort to be like sending an email and be like, you two should talk to each other because you're doing the same thing. But the impact it has on like those people, what those people are trying to achieve is like really high if it goes well. So there's like, and I think that's how you like pay it back once you've like built your network and are enjoying the benefits of that. Yeah, so that is 5 things I learned through my career in terms of open source leadership. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions.
So I was thinking of what to make the topic when I was given I'll be talking on this series, but I just figured that there was no topic better than the one that was assigned to. So I used the topic called Open Leadership in Practice, my experiences from building and leading open science initiatives. So a brief about me. Sorry, I haven't updated this in a while. I'm an open science and digital skill advocate. I had my first degree in biochemistry in Nigeria. I completed a master's in public health. And I'm still going some business, some trainings in business administration and policy at the moment. So I co-founded Bioinformatics Outreach Nigeria. I am currently doing some level of open science consultancy with Ignore Sweden, doing administrative work with Ignore US. I am an incoming board member for the collaborative science in the US, as well as their secretary. Previously, I've served as a OLS resident fellow, community leader, currently community leader with RSC. I've been with peer review, IPS Bio, Turing Way, actively contributing to Turing Way and Open Data Editor. And I'm also a member of the working group for SeedNet. I stay in Abuja, Nigeria. So should the case you're thinking of coming to Africa, Abuja is a very cool place to be in. So, like I said earlier, I'll be talking about my story. And so this is the moment everything starts. It started, I think, 2021 thereabouts. So I got enrolled as part of my work at the university doing biochemistry. Quite a number of my folks were going to university to go into clinical laboratories, but I chose that I wanted to work in a research lab. So I got into a research lab, a biotech lab, and their core focus was around vaccine genomics analysis and all. So I tried to, learn a few things in there. But that's the moment I began to discover that that period of the learning phase, as we all know, is not usually very, very interesting. Trying to come to new concept. But that was actually the moment where everything started. I began to discover that most of the things that were taught to do or while I was learning cannot possibly work in my setting, right? It's quite difficult to do, if not almost impossible, right? As at the time, quite difficult to do. Then you had a problem of reaching out to people, and quite a number of the people within my local research community you could not easily communicate with them by what we are doing. So I understand that there was this particular gap, so I decided to fill it. I reached out to somebody, Emmanuel, as I'll mention a few names, Emmanuel, and I saw him. He was affiliated with OLSS at the time. Gained fully called Open Life Science, and I was trying to get more information, and that was actually where my open science leadership actually began. So what does Open Life Science leadership actually mean? So what I'm going to be doing is I'll be telling my story, and I'll be infusing some particular lessons into it as we move on. So generally, it is making your process visible, not just your results. It's about inviting people to make decisions before they are made. It's about building systems that works without you. It's about sharing power deliberately and structurally. It's not just like putting everything on GitHub and calling it done. Leading alone and sharing credits afterwards. It's not just about about transparency without accountability. So for me, what I've actually done is that we're able to distribute opportunities, access. I've been able to make my uncertainties visible. I've been able to, design workshops, or adapted workshops so that others could rerun it in their settings. And it is also me saying, I don't know, and let's figure it out together, which was a very good statement I learned from one of my mentors, Kavika. So while I was actually stepping into the space, and I understand that there was a significant gap. And what is this particular significant gap? It's that we could not just talk to each other. We are not talking to each other enough. The science in which we are doing is obviously not made for us. And we have quite a number of problems trying to contextualize all this bioinformatics whatsoever into our setting. So what do we do? So we decided to run a survey. I and Emmanuel decided to run a survey to kind of understand the kind of landscape that we are in, and we got very interesting results. So the results we shows that we have knowledge gap, we have quite limited infrastructure to do research in our community. There were training shortage, and those that were even available at the time were exceedingly exorbitant, right? People could not actually pay to access these very high-class trainings within our setting, right? There was issues of accessibility, people could not access, and there were a lot of resources constraints here and there. And eventually, a major pointing factor was that all these different barriers compounds to actually impede the growth of scientific competitiveness in our region. I mean, there were more lesser collaboration. People could not actively advance in their scientific career, and by that, most of our research, if not, are not quite reproducible. Science was not practically open. It was like people are just doing science in their own silos, closed and all. So this actually made us, to step forward to kind of, do BioHN, what we call bioinformatics outreach. So essentially, it was a metamorphosed into that BioHN. And currently now we are still even working on trying to look for a more befitting name that would probably serve the core purposes of what we do, because we have actually, in a way, moved from doing core bioinformatics and trying to, kind of build folks who are into non-technical fields, trying to move them to ensure that they are, work around open science, trying to see they apply open science into what they do. So as I lead in this initiative, so it makes some of our core principles, which actually our choices. So starting out BioHN means quite a number of leadership choices that we have to take, which is first, community first. Trying to ensure that there's enough space for people to talk to each other. Trying to ensure that we look at trying to make things very much open. All our slide decks, all our curricula, all our, training, how we design our trainings are pretty much opened, including some of our mistakes, right? But some of our mistakes also, and our pivots. You hear me talk about most of our pivots, continuous pivoting to ensure that we do things more right now. Then two, we also begin to look for a local language of trust. Trying to get people in a very low trust environment to do things a certain way, it's a very Herculean task, right? It's very quite difficult. And when we're trying to bring standardizations that we have learned, working with larger and bigger communities, for instance, I've worked with OLS, worked with quite a number of larger communities out there. You see a lot of standardizations and we want to bring it in. We discovered that it doesn't just work. And interestingly, for some very weird reasons, people in Africa or in Nigeria particularly trust people, communications via, or are more active on communications via WhatsApp. We tried using Slack channel and some other means. It doesn't just work. So we have to, try to look for that. And significantly, it increases the trust and, trust and active participation of people. Then shared governance. It was not just only though I was the major lead, but we had quite a number of people that we had to that we worked together for the plan, for our planning, for the active decision making, and and my job in most of these cases is to hold spaces so that these conversations hold and we are able to move forward. This is a bridge from what I did in OLS, Open Seed, and also I actually learned to lead openly. So quite a number of things that I hear was directly come from my OLS resident fellowship. So for my OLS resident fellowship, essentially it was the platform that eventually gave me this OLS, this open science leadership, where I was able to support the management of open seats 9, if I could remember correctly. But while working on this side, I was also working on working on bioinformatics Africa Nigeria. So essentially, what I saw there made me to to apply some of these core lessons in some of the things I'll be telling you. For tweets, so that before you begin to before you begin to think about some of these things you talk, before you begin to work, you must first of all understand the vision. That is before you introduce it to the training and all visions before tools. You need to ask yourself very difficult questions. Why are you building this for? What do they need? The other way around, which some of the examples that I've shared earlier. Now you have to, kind of lower the barrier. The jargon is jargon is a gate when we have so much big language and folks do not actually understand. Timing is a gate. I have so many examples to share in here because I came from, a scientific background whereby you have to essentially write very, very technical words, and virtually everybody you are communicating to does not even understand what you're saying. So English only slides are gates in cases whereby you have multilinguals, and it's very easy, so you have to do that. So open science leadership in here, they always taught me that essentially your job as a leader is to remove all these gates. So it also taught me to document, your thinking. It was in OLS first that I know that we started first using the concept of shared notes, and as you're writing, you are thinking, and the other way around. So, and mentorship could serve as source of multiplication. I've been mentored by several mentors. Specifically, I think I need to mention names in here. Mavika Sharon was my mentor in OLS, which was also an SSI fellow, and I was also co-mentored by Dr. Tajudeen, which both of them are now in different positions across where, and we communicate more often today. I still ask Taj quite a number of difficult questions till date and all. So to put all these earlier stories and where I've been able to apply them moving forward. So this is open leadership in action. So I've been able to lead and organize open science fellowship, open science workshops. So here was the first edition that we did. And essentially what we did was that we tried to organize open science training for bioinformaticians. And for the first edition, that was when we gathered about 48 people, 40 to 50 people. And we tried to do everything that we have learned and all, try to make all these videos open, try to engage multiple communities. You can see these are active inputs from OLS and Bioinformatics Hub of Kenya to kind of implement. And we also tried to communicate and ensure this program was rerun. But after we did that, so here's where the concept of community building and all tries to come in. So we decided to say, okay, on the very first edition, and the first edition was done based on our first, the survey that we did. So we decided to say, okay, what do we do now? We decided to harvest people's information about the first edition. Quite a lot of people said they don't have formal ways to improve the workshop and all. But we decided to ask a very multiple question that, okay, what future topics do you think? So you begin to see questions on ethics, preprints, exploring databases and all. So we decided to summarize all these and try to say, okay, what do we want to do? Quite a number of people said they want more time. So the very first thing we did in our second workshop was that the first workshop was a 2-day program. We started to make it 3D, trying to give each instructor more time to be able to talk about more what they do. Put in more in-depth practical sections. Like we invited Dr. Toby from Carpentries to walk people through GitHub, because you could see a lot of stuff around stuff in ethics. We included preprinting, and we brought in Daniela to talk about more about preprinting and what they do, peer review and all. So we begin to pick the ones we begin to imbibe all these lessons that we've gotten from this, how we run the timing and all to further improve on our programs. So and it's to further improve on our programs in the next edition, and we are hoping to sometime this year run the third edition of the program, sometime later this year to run the third edition of the program. All right. So another act for me to do open science in leadership was that, okay, we understand that there's a particular terrain in which particular community and how to do stuff, but it's not so bad to introduce any new tools to them. So we try to empower folks with open data editor. So I personally went through an open editor training. So one of the things we did was that we tried to step down the training to our community members so that they could learn. And essentially, this was not just only that we tried to make it more encompassing, try to teach people about data management, what the data is, how how do you make data more fair? So we introduced the concept of fairness of data to folks, and we try to introduce open data audit. So this was an open leadership in action for me. So this this was another point in which where I tried to demonstrate open leadership in action, was trying to provide research infrastructure. So this particular project was a project of the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which funded a group of people, including OLS, to carpentries and all. And the main goal was to provide research infrastructure for community members, for research communities in Africa and Latin America. So I was selected, and essentially this actually provided us a lot of trainings and trying to get this infrastructure, this research infrastructure back to the community of need, which need, and we try to put people on to see how people do this. So that's one of the ways in which I've demonstrated open science in action. Now, and aside from doing so many technical things, you figure out that when we don't talk about these things and people does not actually hear more about these things, it actually stays there. So personally, I've written quite a number of I've tried to be on different platforms to talk about openness in science, openness in leadership across different spectrums. So here are two examples of it that I put in here. We have more. We also have some currently in the pipeline which are currently undergoing reviews at different angles. I've also written about the roles in which I think AI was actually playing in terms of doing science or leading in open science and all. So, which is very much public and you can get them out there. So I've tried to, serve as a community-facing person to talk more openly around what open research is, what open science is, how can we do research better and all. So this is another very good example of open science and leadership. Now, I did not just try to do that more openly. One very good example was that I tried to be a very influencer of change. So I'm not just canvassing for it. I tried to kind of implement it where I have. So recently I was very much involved with a research institution here in Nigeria. Not research anyway, think tank institution, more of what we call a development and consulting firm. So, and one of the tasks I was doing when I got in very early, I think this was in March. So was that to prepare some of the articles they have in there to go out. So I found it that, okay, they were trying to look at these very, very big, expensive journals. And I find that, okay, this is an opportunity for me to, put the work I've been doing here in action. So I wrote to my manager and I told him, so I had to block out some things there because of, institutional stuff means and all. So as we have earlier discussed, and I'll be preparing the manuscript for submission. So while I kind of reviewed the possibilities of submitting this and I gave my comments, I told her it was of an essence to, promote the use of preprint in this case. So I explained what preprint is and what. And interestingly, after this call, the one word I had is I can have on a short meeting. So we're in a short meeting and we interact more about this. And she said, okay, there's no problem, and we'll try to put that in there. And some of the current research works would actively consider, preprinting and all. So that is me trying to influence an entire institution to think more or do more open science without necessarily trying to put the burden of, you have to follow this principle, follow this principle, follow this principle. So I know as things move alongside with the institution, that being an influence of a single person will also by exponential, if she further leads the institution, also by exponential move across everybody in the research team and to other more institutions within the country. So here's the part nobody has talked about. So it also costs you something. Right, openness kind of invites criticisms. I wish I could share a particular WhatsApp message. I wish I could share for so many very good reasons. I'm not going to try to put that in public. So when you work in public, you receive a lot of criticisms which may not essentially go well with you. It has happened to me while trying to be BOHN. So community needs are not always what you intend for. For instance, I've shared the example of working via Slack and trying to move people back to Slack. You know, my own very good intention is when we try to standardize this community, you can have a lot of international community members who are actively happy to be part of us, wants to be a part of our community. But interestingly, it was not working. Nobody was communicating on the Slack channel. We're just dumping information there and there. But when we have to come back to what they need or what they actually want to use and all, I mean, the interaction flow increases.
I lost you there. Oh, there you go. I lost your audio for a second, Sean, but I think you're back.
Okay, sorry. Probably
That's okay. It was literally a second.
Yeah, so it's actually emotional labor. I mean, quite a number of works in which community leaders are not trying to, it's not compensated for. I mean, it's just like, I just feel just like something Ella mentioned earlier in the call. It's just something that you know this thing is work. You know, you see the interactions, you see everything going on, and it was not like, okay, you just want it to go on, right? You just want it to go on. And it actually takes a lot of effort to put in before people begin to start communicating and start thinking, okay, they want to also be a part of leadership. It will have also been very good for me to also put in another WhatsApp chat. I think I see that yesterday or earlier this week, where one of the people in our community, a professor from, I think, Tanzania also, reached out to me that she also wants to be part of our planning processes and all. So this is where you see that quite a number of the good works that we're doing actually make sense. And then people actually want to be part, and they're actively trying to come up into the leadership processes and all. So, you also have to think about the system must not be largely thinks about built for it to succeed. You know, community labor most times, real community labor most times is doesn't actually involve a lot of metrics. You know, I mean, trying to quantify interaction, trying to quantify use case of things and all. But you know, when you have to think about this, you have to also know that funders want metrics. They want a particular number of people who actually use something, probably for just once, but not people who actively use that thing for a long time and all. So you have to also, you know, kind of think about navigating this tension and all. So what you have been able to do, right? What open sciences that you have been able to do and be in today. So currently now on our WhatsApp group, we have about 100 plus members. We have conducted 4 major workshops, and all the materials are free. Even most of the trainings that I took outside that are also on our tutor and also on our, what's it called? On our other platforms that people can use. Our communities has produced, this is one of the most interesting part that I'm so happy with. In the last cohort of the Nebula is actually an OLS training program. I did OLS, I did OpenSeed. So the Nebula was actually a training program. So our community member actually produced 2 active community members who eventually got onto the program. And both of them actually requested that I train them. I was able to train one throughout the program. I mean, coach one throughout the program, and it was a very, very good opportunity. So it means that quite a number of people in our community are also stepping more into the open science space across different. Our community associate also currently is also a peer review champion to a similar position that I've gotten to before. We have also trained co-mentored people in mentored peer review champions to across. So I mean, that's a major highlight for me. And across, I've been able to build, about 10 plus partner networks. I've been able to interact with people that we could easily reach out to. And when I say partner networks, it's a network, not that we have official memorandum of understanding, but these are people who actually recognize the good things that we do, and we easily search to them in case we need support in one way or the other. But overall, we have been able to train over 400 people via BON programs. And I think there's a slide missing here. Oh, sorry. Okay, sorry, this slide is supposed to come before the other, probably when I was dragging them. So beyond all these training numbers, so beyond this training, these numbers that I have showcases, these are some of the very, very much impactful learning experience that we have been able to create while working in our community. You see, this is one. This is a project program I like to create my own data. There's my seminar and projects. This will have cost me a lot of money if I had no knowledge of it. With BON, I've been able to build confidence to use Horizon, one of our program for social science stuff. And so many more of that. And if you want to see a very full glimpse of it, please just go to LinkedIn and type by Informatics Outreach Nigeria. And you see a lot of people who have written so many beautiful things about some of the programs that we have done. And you'll be able to appreciate the good work that we have been able to do in a low resource community with very little amount of funding and support. So across this, what have I actually learned? So trust is a tool. Trust is actually a technology. So if the people doesn't trust you, things are not going to work. Right? Openness is a practice, not just a product. The uncertainty is also a resource. Working across this place, and when your supervisor or your community, you can tell your community member, actually, I don't know this. We can actually figure it out together if you have the time. And local roots, global outreach. Actually, I'm presenting from Abuja, Nigeria. We're in a country where quite a number of things are happening simultaneously at the same time. But from Abuja, Nigeria, while I'm building, I've been able to reach, and I've been able to work across the global north, both in Sweden. My work has reached Sweden, has reached the United States of America. My work has reached the United Kingdom, London, and home. So I actually measure what matters, So another lesson I've learned is that you actually measure what matters. This number 4 lesson is actually a very big one. So what I've learned is that you have to build so that you can also take a back step. I've been talking to most of our community leaders that I think I have to step a bit back so that people from the community can also take on this leadership post and all. But some of these things are based on some constraints. Why I've not been able to take those big moves, some constraint, because some of these need some actual support for people to take these roles to move forward. So, this is what I just want to say to the SSS fellows. Sorry, not OLS fellows this time around. SSS fellows who are just in the room. Open leadership is available to you right now and in your context. So what you just have to think about is that who is not in the room. For the particular project you want to work on, who is not there. For people who want to do stuff around community building, I think I've taught this quite a number of them. And every community, for every community, you do reflect on choices to make. And then at what stage they have to bring people in and all. You also have to think about what are you keeping closed that should be open. So for instance, in your project, you have to think about, okay, what am I actually thinking? What am I actually keeping closed that is not public that I should make public? So you have to, it could be your thoughts, it could be your quotes, it could be your methods, it could be your failures, right? I think the very first open science post I wrote was championing preprint in Africa. And I shared economic and application, migration was not successful because I only had preprint, and that's the great impediments and research. I've also shared a failure post where I wrote about why the need for scientific conferences to be open and science should be more trans-border, should move across different borders, because I got a visa rejection to attend Brazil. To attend the Brazil conference in Brazil. Very painful experience. So I began to write and document all the processes during the middle of a big pain while I was attending the conference, right? So you could share your thoughts, share your failures, share your successes. That's what a number of people do. Share your successes, share your methods, share your stuff. Then you have to also think about why you're actually building these things for. It's not actually for your funders. While trying to do a lot of this, I've had for a particular funder, I think I had a little bit of changing the initial plan for the program, because as the program was moving on, a lot of external fluxes begins to want to move in. You have to take a step back to how do you actually want to do this to ensure that the interest of our community is protected and not just what this particular social impact program wants us to do and all. So once you begin to think more about these 3 things, I think we are also on a very good path to becoming an open science leader. Open science is not just luxury, it's actually an infrastructure. And open leadership is not a style, it's a commitment to the people, which this system is not built for. So thank you so much for the invite. SSI, RCM, and OLS. It's very, very happy to be here. So please do connect with me at Olufemi on LinkedIn. I think that's my most active social media. And you could also check LinkedIn for bioinformatics at Nigeria too.